Hi everybody, welcome to the Sinister Story Hour. I'm your host, Steph. Thank you for joining me. Every week we dive into a new case of something true crime, cults, paranormal experiences, conspiracies, or anything else sinister. So join me as we delve into each case, and I hope you find it as fascinating as I do. Hey guys, have you thought about making your own podcast, but you're not really sure where to start? That's how I was at first, and really the only choice that stood out to me was Anchor. And let me tell you why. It was completely free to start, and it has all the tools that allow me to record and edit my podcast right from my phone or computer. And they distribute the podcast for me, so it's heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. There's no minimum listenership, and you can start making money from day one. And really everything you need to make your podcast is all in one place. I love it, and I know you will too. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Sinister Story Hour. This is the podcast where we get together each week and we share tales of gruesome, ghastly, grim, sinister stories. As always, you can find us on all social media platforms. We are on Twitter at Sinister Hour, Instagram and TikTok at Sinister Story Hour. And as always, if you like the show, the most helpful thing you can possibly do is to just ghastly, grim, sinister stories. As always, you can find us on all social media platforms. We are on Twitter at Sinister Hour, Instagram and TikTok at Sinister Story Hour. And as always, if you like the show, the most helpful thing you can possibly do is to just review, like, subscribe, do all of those things, and that helps us so much. So please just go on and leave us a 5-star rating if you could. Help keep the pod going and keep us well fed. You can buy me a pizza. So in order to do that, you go on to buy me a coffee at Sinister Hour and feel free to buy this girl a pizza. So tonight I will preface this story with a huge trigger warning. It is a story that is a real downer. It's a story of a serial killer, but it's the worst kind of serial killer. There will be references of suicide, depression, addiction, neonaticide, and if you're not familiar with the term neonaticide, it actually means murder of a baby that was 24 hours or less. If you are trying to deal with depression, postpartum depression, or any of those things on your own, please reach out. Please get help for those things. I have dealt with postpartum depression twice, and it's nothing to play around with, guys. Please get some help. Reach out to somebody. And if you've had thoughts of hurting yourself or others, again, reach out. There's a national helpline at 1-800-662-HELP, and there is also a postpartum support international helpline. 1-800-944-4773 is the number to get help there. Now, with that being said, we will go ahead and get into our story. Our story tonight is about a woman named Megan Huntsman. Now, if you have been anywhere near Utah, you know of this last name, Huntsman. It's a very common last name. It's a very predominant last name. And the Huntsman Cancer Institute is very well known in Utah. So I'm sure that if you've been anywhere near Utah, you've heard of this last name. Now, she was actually family of those that we do know with the last name Huntsman, but I'm not sure exactly how that fit in or what the dynamic was there. So I'm not going to go into that. Now, the story takes place in Pleasant Grove, Utah in April of 2014. Pleasant Grove is about 20 minutes from Provo, Utah. Now, for me to say that this is predominantly a Mormon community is like complete and total understatement. Pretty much everything in this area is a Mormon community. So church is probably the one thing that everybody had in common as she was growing up in Provo and that area. Now, Blaine, her dad, actually grew up in Manila, Utah, which is basically kind of a neighboring town to me. I'm very familiar with Manila, and we have a lot of friends there. Not much is really said about Megan in her younger years. It seems like she just kind of went unnoticed for the most part. Megan got pregnant in high school and she moved out at the age of 18 to get married. She had tried to hide this pregnancy, and which I could kind of understand. She was 18, her parents were LDS, she's in predominantly a Mormon community, she's not married quite yet at the time, I don't believe, when she was pregnant. And so, yeah, I can kind of see what her panic was for. Now, it turned out that she actually would try to hide every single one of her pregnancies, and she would try to hide it up until the time that she was ready to deliver. So that is definitely odd. At the time, pretty much everybody just thought she was a natural at this. She looked like a great mother. Now, Megan's significant other is Darren West, and they would end up married. Like I said, they would appear to have just somewhat of a normal, happy marriage. However, at some point, they do experiment with drugs and they start kind of doing drugs together, and it ends up becoming an addiction. And both of them end up being addicted to methamphetamines. At one point, Megan's husband, Darren, goes to prison for 8 years. He was arrested for possession of chemicals intended to be used for manufacture of methamphetamines. So he had actually ordered some items that were chemicals that are used in order to make meth. And so that was why he was arrested. So after he goes to prison, he does spend 8 years, like I said, in prison. And Megan's basically without a supplier because her husband was the one that had supplied the drugs to her in the past. Now, once he goes to prison, she basically transfers her addiction to alcohol. And in 2012, her father was dealing with chronic pain and just could not seem to get any relief, and he took his own life. Now, after he took his own life, Megan just experienced such a deep depression, and she ended up going deeper and deeper into her alcohol addiction. And I'm sure that we've known somebody, most of us, who have been in that case where small things just pile on and kind of dig us into a deeper hole of depression and addiction. These are bigger things. These are pretty life-altering things, and I can see why that would have happened to her. Now, Darren, like I said, serves his time. After he's released, he's back at the home that the couple once shared. By that time, Megan had had a different boyfriend and was off living with him. So Darren is cleaning the house, and they're actually cleaning the garage when they make a grisly discovery. Darren finds a small white box that's wrapped in plastic, and the first instinct he has is the smell of the box, and it doesn't smell bad. It's just a very, very strong chemical smell. So he goes to unwrap the plastic, and he actually finds the body of a decaying infant. So obviously he's horrified. He notifies the authorities, and he also calls Megan to tell her, I just found this and I am calling the police. I have called them and I am letting them know what I just found. Her first instinct is that she wants to commit suicide at that point because she knows that things are about to come out. Now, the police get to the house, they get a warrant to search, and during the search, they find that it's way worse than what they could have ever imagined. Eventually, they go on to find 7 tiny corpses wrapped in bags, covered in electrical tape, and stuffed in boxes, just like shoe boxes, small boxes with clothing and towels, and placed in boxes that are just among storage items. So she basically would just write something on the outside of the box that said like Christmas or something like that so that it fits in among all the other storage items. This had been going on over a 10-year period from 1996 to 2006. While the police are looking, they take stained sections of a mattress in the master bedroom as evidence, along with infant booties and clothes. In the garage, they find bloody leather gloves and women's underwear. So the day that the babies are found, Huntsman tells the police that there were possibly 8 or 9 babies in the home. The truth is, she actually doesn't even know. She doesn't know how many infants she had killed and stowed away. Now, are you kidding me? At this point, she had actually lost count of what she was doing. Her husband claims to have absolutely no knowledge of this, and apparently the investigators believe that to be true. He did, however, live with Megan during the entire decade that the killings were occurring. At first, Darren denies being the father of all of the infants, but DNA tests would actually determine that he was indeed the father of all 7 infants. Apparently, neighbors had absolutely no idea, which, if you think about it, this is 10 times that she was pregnant in 12 years. So literally, they probably haven't seen her not be pregnant. So when they say that they would see her gain and lose a little bit of weight, but they never really thought she was pregnant, I can completely get behind that. I mean, I understand why that would happen. They were always seeing her pregnant and they just didn't know it. Megan admits that she had either strangled or suffocated the babies immediately after they were born. She would then wrap the bodies in a towel or shirt, place them in a plastic bag, and then pack them away in small boxes to place in her garage. They're literally, like I said, in shoe boxes. It blows my mind that that's what you would do. The first time she delivered a baby by herself, she put her thumbs on the baby's neck. Now, this is going to be horrible, and I am so sorry, but she puts her thumbs on the baby's neck, choking it to death, and even used a hair tie to strangle the baby just to make sure it was dead. She would wrap it in a cloth, a bag, place it in the shoebox, and placed it in the garage, and that box she labeled Christmas. There was even one time that Megan had given birth in the bathroom while Darren, his brother, and sister-in-law sat outside in the living room watching TV. One of the bodies of the infants was covered in a substance that smelled like iodine, which, like I said, there was a very strong chemical smell, and that was what it actually smelled like. She did actually have one daughter in between all of these times. So she had 2 daughters, 20 and 18 at this time. Then there were 2 deaths that were determined to happen after them. And then she had a 13-year-old daughter at the time of this discovery, and authorities say that there had been 5 deaths after her birth. Now, the only reason that the daughter actually survived, they believe, is that the pregnancy didn't go unnoticed. So people had actually found out she was pregnant, and she had no other choice but to have the baby. It makes me wonder what she would have done had it gone unnoticed just like the others. So Megan's 3 living daughters have reportedly turned out to be great young women, and my heart goes out to them. I can't even imagine growing up in this kind of a circumstance with your family. Megan was held on a $6 million bail after she was arrested. She claims that the body of the newborn that was found had been the body of a stillborn baby, and she had just been scared to tell anybody, even though she wouldn't actually say why she is scared. So while they are questioning her, it becomes very, very evident that this was not just a one-time deal, and she knows that she has to confess. While she was in court, she remained very silent and just kept her head down. At one point, Megan does say, "In some small way, I wanted to help them avoid the terrible life I would have given them. I deprived my little babies of the opportunity of life." Yeah, you did. Megan pleaded guilty to 6 counts of murder. There were actually 7 deceased infants found, like I said, but 1 had been a stillborn. So that's why there were only 6 counts of murder. DNA results have confirmed that all 7 newborns were full term. Megan will spend at least 30 years in prison before being eligible for parole. Does that seem like not very long to anyone else? This woman is not very old, so for her to spend at least 30 years seems like pretty lenient after killing 6 of her own babies. Let me know what you guys think about that, because